Stairway ghost. This footage shows a woman who appears to be walking down a stairwell of some building. As she walks casually downward, she stops in her tracks and seems to fall against the wall in fear. She quickly turns around and runs back up the stairs out of the camera's view. When reviewing the video, you can see the door at the bottom of the stairs seems to fling open and a dark shadowy apparition comes through the doorway. The dark ghostly figure seems to be masculine and it runs towards the woman but vanishes midway up the stairs. Children kidnapped in Pakistan. This CCTV footage comes from Lahore, Pakistan, and while the footage shown is disturbing, the story behind this ongoing tragedy makes it 10 times worse. In the region of Punjab in India, from 2011 to 2016, over 7,000 children were abducted. This trend of abductions has spread throughout India and now has moved into Pakistan with over 300 abductions in only the last month. It is understood that they are forced into drug use, drug sales, prostitution, begging, and worst of all, some are found dead with organs such as kidneys, hearts, and eyes missing. A large majority of these children are also brainwashed into becoming suicide bombers for forces in Pakistan. Many complain that the Pakistani police and dolphin forces are not helping to curb the high rates of crime and are also little to no help in these kidnapping cases. The kidnappers either do this by choice or by hire. They drive large white vans where they snatch up multiple children in a single day. They also began wearing burqas in public to hide better and communicate with drivers. This footage of children being grabbed from right beside their parents is truly chilling, but the fact these parents know the horrible fate their children face once they're grabbed up makes this a pure nightmare. Again, seeing something like this will make you keep a much tighter grip on your children. Just the thought of how easily things like this can happen is enough to affect anyone with kids. Nicolas White. Any viewers with claustrophobia are sure to get a panic out of this one. The CCTV footage was collected from the McGraw-Hill building in New York City. Around 11 o'clock on a Friday night in early October 1999, Nicolas White left his office to take a quick smoke break before packing up and heading home. White returned to the elevator to head back up to the 43rd floor. The elevator took off quickly, but after merely a few seconds it stopped abruptly. The lights went out before flickering back on. No buttons or emergency calls in the elevator would respond, and White soon realized he was trapped. White rang the alarm bell several times and even broke the button so it ran continuously, but apparently it was never heard. After hours of sitting calmly, he began to pry open the elevator doors but was faced with a cement wall that said 13, meaning he was on the 13th floor where the elevator had no stops, as it was an express elevator for the 39th floor and up. He smoked a cigarette in hopes the workers would smell the smoke, but nothing seemed to work. It was a Friday night and no one would be back until Monday or so. Nicolas tried everything. He jumped towards the escape hatch but found it was locked. He lit matches. He even urinated down the elevator shaft in hopes the scent or liquid would alert someone or something. He mostly slept and went through his wallet. He was finally released Monday morning after 41 hours of agonizing boredom. As soon as the doors opened, he bolted out and explained what had happened. While his calmness is admirable, it's safe to say that most people would not have handled this situation as well. 41 hours of isolation could easily lead a person towards insanity, and no food or water for that long is plenty enough to cause illness or dehydration. Possessed woman. Not long ago, a video went viral of a man acting strangely in a convenience store. As he fell to the ground and tugged at his shirt, he seemed possessed. It turns out this wasn't the first video of its kind. A similar video featuring a woman was released in June 2016. The CCTV footage shows a woman casually shopping down the aisles of what seems to be a clothing store. She approached a few items on the shelves before dropping everything and shaking uncontrollably. She seems to be exhibiting the behaviors of someone having a seizure, but she's also screaming and making very deep growls. A man approaches her to see if she's okay as others watch in disbelief. She screams loudly and throws her head back and startles everyone. The man helping her even falls down. Her behavior gets worse as she continues to scream and convulse. Eventually, the group of people calm her down enough to pick her up and walk off camera. Lars Mittank. In July of 2014, 28-year-old Lars Mittank went on vacation with friends to Golden Sands in Bulgaria, a popular spot for German and English youth. While drinking and hanging out on the beach, Lars got into a dispute which escalated to a physical fight. This fight damaged his eardrum, which meant that he was not able to take a flight home with his friends, and had to wait an extra night alone. While staying at a local hotel, Lars made calls to his mother claiming that he believed someone or something was after him. He seemed scared, disorientated, and would end every phone call by just abruptly hanging up. He apparently told her that 4 men had been following him and asking about his medication, a 500 milligram antibiotic, and that he was currently hiding outside of the hotel. Lars did visit the doctor the next day to get a checkup before taking his flight home. Apparently though, he abruptly ran out of the doctor's office. The CCTV footage from the airport is the last time Lars was seen before disappearing into a nearby forest. He seems normal until he enters a corridor. He then drops all of his belongings and bolts out of the airport. He can be seen on outside security footage running off camera. Witnesses say they saw Lars jump a large chain link fence and run into the forest. He was never seen or heard from again. He may have gotten lost in the woods, although search parties have found no evidence inside the wooded area. While Lars had no history of mental illness, it is possible that the injury he suffered could have been more severe than the doctors originally diagnosed. Severe head injury can lead to psychosis, which seems to be what has likely happened here. There are of course more explanations, such as Lars abusing more recreational drugs. A huge symptom of injury-induced psychosis though is paranoia, which Lars demonstrated completely. There are several search parties and people that you can contact if you're interested in learning more or helping with the disappearance of Lars Mittank. John P.Wheeler. This 66-year-old man was known for holding many prestigious places in government systems. Some of his titles throughout his lifetime include Chairman of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, Senior Planner of Amtrak, Chief Executive and CEO of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Consultant to the Mateer Corporation, and a presidential aide to Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and George W. Bush administrations. He was of course more well known for his positions in the presidential administrations. His death was a mysterious and dark tale that had many missing pieces which kept the public guessing. Those who kept up with the news of his death in December 2010 admit they still look for new evidence to pop up from time to time. While his cause of death was deemed a homicide by assault with blunt force trauma, there's still plenty of questions surrounding the case that have yet to be answered. As the story goes, Wheeler was seen the night before his death. He was wandering around a parking garage looking for his car or a place to stay warm. This disturbing CCTV footage shows Wheeler before his death. He's clearly acting bizarre, having trouble walking and speaking. He seems drunk or under the influence, but those who came across him that day claimed he seemed more disorientated and lost than drunk or high. Psychiatrists have claimed that behavior like this can be caused by heart problems, extreme stress or fear, but that it didn't seem likely for Wheeler to have these issues out of nowhere, as he had no history of health-related psychosis. As Wheeler walks down a corridor in the building, he touches many things, looks around him several times, closes a door, raises his hands into the air, and appears to be talking to himself. These are all general signs of paranoia and a lack of contact with reality. On December 31st, his body was discovered falling onto a trash heap in the Cherry Island landfill. It's uncertain where he had been picked up, but it was likely from a commercial dumpster, as there were several such stops on the truck's route. The medical examiner said that his official cause of death was blunt force trauma, but a weapon or exact cause was never determined. There are various theories to this, and those that have an interest in government conspiracy theories believe that in the footage, Wheeler had been drugged for whatever reason and then killed to keep government secrets hidden. There were no drugs found in Wheeler's system, however they could have been cleansed from his system before he died. No matter what you believe, this story is shocking, and the fact these empty spaces will probably never be filled is frustrating and unsettling. Child held hostage. This Walmart surveillance camera caught a very terrifying hostage situation which ended with gunshots. In June 2013, Sammy Wallace was seen on the surveillance system walking into the Midwest City, Oklahoma local Walmart. He grabbed a shopping cart and walked around aimlessly while talking on the phone. Wallace passed Alicia Keating and her 2 daughters several times before he came back around and snatched her younger 2-year-old daughter out of the shopping cart. He handed a phone to Alicia and told her to call a police officer in Dallas. Alicia was distraught though and just began screaming for Wallace to give her daughter back. That was when he pulled a large knife out of his pants and put it to the girl's stomach. Employees approached the situation and witnesses called 911. As the Walmart was located directly across the street from the police department, officers were on the scene within literal seconds. Chief Klebs said that the police negotiated with Wallace for nearly 2 hours, trying to get him to release the toddler. Officers eventually contacted the police officer in Dallas, Texas that Wallace had been trying to contact. The officer claimed that Wallace had been harassing him, but for what was never explained. Towards the end of the tense situation, Klebs convinced Wallace to have a seat. The toddler began to fuss as she had been calm throughout most of the standoff. As she began to squirm, Wallace squeezed her and moved the knife from her stomach to her neck. Klebs claimed that Wallace then began to say things about a satanic cult and started to count down from 60. Nearby Captain Huff was certain that Wallace was counting down to kill the toddler, or that he had already injured her by squeezing her or making contact with her neck and the blade. Huff shot Wallace in the head and he died instantly.
Wallace then moves the knife up to the girl's neck, and while another officer out of view distracts him, Huff lunges forward, shooting and killing Wallace.
He made sure he was at point blank range so that there was no ability to harm that child. And of course, there's always that chance.
After the situation, Wallace's family claimed that he had been in prison for 11 years and just moved to Oklahoma because he allegedly saw things in his old apartment. He had a history of mental illness and was apparently not seeking proper care. The most terrifying part of this footage is considering having your child or sibling grabbed up in Walmart. There was no method to Wallace choosing this child. She was just a child, which he knew is what he needed. Something like this is sure to make you hold your children a little closer.